Ladies and gentlemen, it is Thursday night, 8 o'clock, August 6th, and you are live with the Fantasy Football Buzz podcast with the Commish, Cyclop, 2020. Hope everybody's having a great night. We're going to talk about the AFC South tonight. We're going to have our impossible trivia question, of course. We're going to have our patented Buzz lightning round, I hope, if Keith puts some together tonight. Looking forward to that. But first, let's say hello, Brad. Keith, how are you guys doing tonight?
Oh, man, doing great. It's been just a few days since our last show, and of course, we've come to the end of the COVID opt-out time and feeling good. And it's like every day I feel like I'm going 40%, 50%, 60%. Is football going to happen? And starting to get our, leagues together. So it's been, it's like a roller coaster.
I had said last time, right, that I thought that I went from like 50% to maybe
like 40 or something.
45. Yeah, and I'm getting down. I'm even at 40 now. I'm starting to
get a little lower.
Optimistic. Yeah, I'm really concerned. I just don't know. I don't see how they're going to be able to have a season with people not getting sick.
Commish, it's really two percentages, right? The first percentage is there going to be a start of a season at all? And the second percentage, the chance that it's going to go the full 17 games.
Right. My pessimism is whether or not we're even going to have football this year. We already saw some of the college teams, UConn backing out, not having a team this year, not having a season.
Right.
And they're doing it to protect the kids, which is great. I'm glad they're doing it. I don't know. And I know money is the big driver. I get it.
I mean, these players have now had the option to opt out. The percentage rates of positive tests, I think was it 56 players out of the 2,000 something on teams have tested positive. So I think the league is feeling good about that because of the percentage.
Although
it's already below the percentage. Now, every day is different, of course. If there's a breakout, if there's something, I get that. But it hasn't happened so far that we know of. It's not like one of the college teams was already coming under scrutiny for hiding it, right? I don't think the NFL teams are doing that. We hope, but my percentage has actually gone up to about 55%. So you're going down a little bit. I'm going up.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wish I felt as confident, but we'll keep it lit. We would love to hear what everyone out there thinks. We'd love to hear from you. Give us a call at 772-800-BUZZ or 2899 772-800-BUZZ 2899.
And I'll throw that offer out again, Commish. The first caller that calls in gets a $25 DoorDash gift card. Dinner's on us tonight.
Dinner's on us, guys. All you got to do is give us a call. Hopefully it'll work, and you can get your DoorDash. And let us know what you think about the upcoming season. What is your confidence level that we're actually going to have a football season this year? And then later on, you can call to answer the trivia question or even have your input on what's going on with the AFC South that we're going to talk about. In fact, guys, I don't know about you. I'm ready to jump right into the AFC South. Let's talk about the fantasy impact of what's going on right now with the AFC South. And normally we do it by position. We start out with quarterback. Who would you say is the clear number one quarterback in the AFC South?
This isn't even close. It's Rivers.
People are now switching off the podcast.
Yeah. It is obviously clearly Watson. Here. Not only is he the clear go-to quarterback in the AFC South, but he's in the top 5 of people's quarterbacks overall. So he does lose Hopkins. That is a little worrisome. They have the Johnson & Johnson backfield, which both of those guys are excellent pass catchers. So that should bring some of that back. And, he didn't have an amazing year last year. He had a good year. I don't see where it puts him above some other quarterbacks for me, but people have him rated that high. But you know what? This is a guy, and obviously he's set to have the best season for this division, but I have him down in like the 8 to 10 range for quarterbacks, and I might be, his rushing touchdowns definitely help, but with losing Hopkins, I don't know. It makes me skeptical.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's a top 10 quarterback. I don't think there's a question there. I think with the interesting question, who's the clear number 2 in this group between Rivers and Tannehill, because Tannehill did really well, and Rivers on a new team, he's always a slinger. He's paired up with Frank Reich again, and they have a really good chemistry they did over in San Diego. I do agree with you. I think losing Watson, who was always his go-to guy, they had probably some of the best chemistry quarterback to wide receiver that they had in the league.
Right.
It's a remains to be seen. I think this could be one of those guys that gets drafted a little too early in that realm. Is he a QB 7 or 8? There's too many out there. I do agree with you there, Cyclops. Clearly top 10 though.
All right. Well, so this might sound a little unprofessional. Before I can give you my take real quick, it sounds like one of you might have something going on in the background. I don't know if there's an app open or something, but it sounds like either music or talk.
I do hear some music as well.
So if you can just check your app and see if running. Well, I didn't mean. We have now lost.
2020 is off.
Missing.
Oh my god!
If anybody has seen 2020? Let us know. But I'm talking about Deshaun Watson. I can more or less sum it up like this, right? Safe, but lacks upside, right? He's a QB number 1. We know that. We're not going to say he's going to be your backup quarterback. He's going to be your starter. He's safe, right? But he lacks that upside. When he had Deshaun Watson, he threw for 3,800 yards, right?
Hopkins. Both of you guys are on the Watson thing.
Oh, sorry. Right. Yeah. So when he had Hopkins, he threw for 3,800 yards. He's a QB1. I have him also around the same area you have him, Brad. He's still a QB1. If you're going to wait to pick him, he's not going to be there because somebody else is going to grab him. So if you really like him, you're probably going to have to grab him in the 5th or 6th round. Again, as you know, my mantra, I'm waiting. I'm waiting on quarterback. I'm going to wait a little further past the 5th or 6th round. What about Ryan Tannehill? Would you say he's the next pick in this division?
I want to say yes. If the fact that Rivers is there, Rivers just slings the ball, right? His wide receivers are okay. Tannehill seems to have this upside this year, and I think he and Rivers are going to have very close numbers. So I don't know that there's a clear number 2. I think it's if you like one or the other. I think the receivers between Corey Brown and AJ Brown, Corey Davis in Tennessee make Tannehill very interesting, and that's so weird to say as a Dolphin fan, but yeah, I
to me both of them are backups. To me, and Phillip Rivers in with the Chargers to me was a low option QB1.
Right.
Now that he's gone to the Colts, to me, he's now fallen even further. He's a QB2. He's a nice backup. With Tannehill, the problem is they're going to run the ball 500 times, right? Seriously. And with the Colts, they're going to run it maybe 250, 300 times. So that Rivers is going to have more passing opportunities than Tannehill. The question is, will those opportunities matter if you're throwing to a hurt and old T.Y. Hilton, to Paris Campbell, to Michael Pittman? They're not bad. I think they're okay, which I agree with. But the same thing with the Titan receivers. So A.J. Brown is an emerging star. We'll talk about him later when we get to the wide receivers. I'm not picking either one unless I need a backup, and then I would have no problem with either one as my backup.
Yeah, I don't even think Phillip Rivers is going to be rosterable. To me, I don't think it's close. Again, we're talking about quarterbacks that if these are your starting, these are your QB1s, you're having problems. Tannehill's a great streaming option. Right. And he's a good bye week fill-in. Phillip Rivers, if you looked at his numbers last year, he had one of the worst seasons of his career. and he had a healthy Keenan Allen.
That's only because of 20 interceptions. He still had 4,600 yards and 23 touchdowns,
which still was not one of his. It was still a down year for him.
He wanted to have one interception for each kid he has.
That's a really good point. He's right. He's a fertile fellow. No one's going to deny him that. But he's going to a new system that Frank Reich is going to try to cater around to him. I just think Tannehill's got the talent around him. A.J. Brown is an absolute stud. I do like Corey Davis. They got Jonnu, who's a very, very fine tight end. They're excited about it. And you got Henry. I think Tannehill is going to have some. I don't want to say significantly, but definitively better numbers than Rivers.
But you said something very interesting, 2020, and that was Frank Reich. Because when Phillip Rivers, for those 2 years when he was with Frank Reich, and again, we're talking about 5 and 6 years ago, he threw for over 9,000 yards, 60 touchdowns in those 2 years. So depending on the offensive system, Rivers still can spin the ball. His interception, as we know, is a problem. I think, again, as an upside, if Rivers is at the end of the draft and you need a backup quarterback, I would take him before I would take Tannehill as a backup, just because for your backup, you want upside. And I think that Phillip Rivers has more of an upside than Tannehill, who's remarkably inconsistent.
I think you're going to see in a lot of leagues. Now, I haven't looked at a lot of already drafted leagues, but if teams are drafting, if it's a 16, 14, 16 team league, I think just because Tannehill's end of the year, you're going to see him move up a little bit. And just because, people are going on their recent history, right? And I think you're going to see him drafted in some deeper number leagues or as a, early backup quarterback, just because of the potential upside. But again,
if we're talking upside, I think Gardner Minshew could actually be a steal late, because people aren't, first of all, he's QB 23 as an ADP. People aren't drafting him until the end, or even picking him up in free agent thinking they're going to stream him. He was a top 10 fantasy quarterback last year in weeks 1 through 9. We forget that. He also had 344 yards rushing. Now, the problem is he doesn't have as many weapons, right? But I still think, and that now let's put them all three together: Tannehill, Minshew, Rivers. Who has the most upside? I think it's Rivers, just because of his history. Then, to me, Minshew, and then Tannehill. Again, all backups. Again, all at the end of the draft.
All right. So basically, you have 3 backups and a starter in this division.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Okay.
That's how we do it. And we would love to hear from you. Anybody out there, just give us a call, 772-800-2899. The first person to call, dinner is on 2020 with a DoorDash certificate or gift card. We appreciate that. Just give us a call. Let us know what you think. And let's move on to, before we go to running backs, guys, we have the impossible trivia question. I made it too hard last week, and I think I made it too hard again this week. But whatever, let's do it. Here's the trivia question for tonight. In the Super Bowl era, who are the only 3 Heisman Trophy winners who never played a regular season down in the NFL? And to me, the surprising thing isn't that there were 3 who never played. The surprising thing to me is that there were only 3.
I have 1, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah?
I'll throw 1 out there. Charlie Ward.
What? Now, why are you doing that? Why are you answering it?
I said I'm going to throw 1 out there.
Okay. Charlie
Ward. You said okay.
Charlie Ward is correct. So we need 2 more. So please don't give those away either.
I won't give those away. That was, I think, the easy one.
Well, I don't know. Some people might not have gotten that, but they might have thought maybe he played a little NFL before he went to the NBA. But okay, so who are the other 2 Heisman Trophy winners who never played a regular season down in the NFL? Let's get back to our NFC South. And
AFC South.
If you think you know the answer and you want to, just put in the comments on Facebook Live or on YouTube Live, and we will see those comments. So feel free to go ahead and comment and let us know what you think. Okay, running backs, guys. We've talked about Derrick Henry in the past. I'm going to talk about him again. To me, the fact that Oh, I lost my train of thought. Okay, I have him as an RB6. No, I had him as an RB5. I don't know where you guys have him at.
Henry?
Derrick Henry.
I have Henry as in the 5-6 range.
Okay, so okay. I remember I'm sorry, guys. What I was going to say, sorry about that, was the fact that Delvin Cook, I was down on Delvin Cook because we weren't sure if he was going to report to camp because there were threats of him holding out.
Right.
The minute he reported to camp, which he did, it moved, in my mind, Cook ahead of Derrick Henry, especially in a PPR league.
In a PPR league, yeah. Standard leagues, I have Henry above Cook.
Or the 5th pick in the draft, now to the 6th running back.
Right. Yeah, and that seems to be the general consensus. I mean, Henry's kind of set up this year to have a big year. He had over 1,500. He had 16 touchdowns and over 1,500 yards last year. There's nothing wrong with that. He doesn't catch a lot out of the backfield, but when you have over 1,500 yards, that's okay, and you're doing those kind of touchdowns. But can he sustain that is always the question. And do you value someone who maybe is going to have 1,200 yards and 400 yards receiving more, like a Delvin Cook, and so. Because those PPR leagues are half PPR.
I mean, what I like with Derrick Henry is he's doing it. It started the latter half, maybe the last third of the season in 2018. He was absolutely crushing it. He did it all year in 2019, and that offensive line.
That's not true. That's not true. Up until week 10, he was the number 14 running back. He was behind David Johnson and Mark Ingram up until week 10. And it was until week 10 when he just went off, right? Up. He started getting 200 yards every game.
Yeah, before that, he had like 60, 40, whatever. I don't know the exact numbers, but they were.
Which Derrick Henry was going to show up for the start of the season.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you, something, you're right. And I guess I'm looking at the games with Tannehill under center. And that's when they really restructure that offense properly. And by the way, it's really weird. The offensive line started playing much better in those weeks as well when Mariota exited and Tannehill became under center. So when you look at that, and all they've done is they're bringing everything back. Delaney Walker's gone. So, they got Jonah. They love that. Dean Lewis is gone, which he really wasn't fighting him for any carries anyway. I don't see any reason why, with the system that they put in place that was working so well last year, it wouldn't just continue. He doesn't get a lot of grabs in the PPR, but I think they're going to feed him the rock so much. The usage is there. I love him at 5 or 6.
Should we pronounce the rest of the running backs like Trump would pronounce them?
Like Geriatric Johnson?
No, like instead of Henry, it would be N. Rye.
Well,
like Yosemite.
Do you guys have Dalvin Cook ahead of Derrick Henry?
In a PPR league, yes.
Okay, so you've got the 5th pick. Here's the question now. All right, we talked about with the 4th pick and whether or not we were going to grab Michael Thomas. Alvin Kamara is sitting there, PPR league at number 4. Are you taking him or Michael Thomas? Most people are taking Kamara at that point. Are you taking Michael Thomas before Dalvin Cook?
At
no.
4.
5.
I am not.
No.
No.
Okay. Are you taking Kamara before Dalvin Cook?
Yes.
No.
Not even in a PPR. Okay.
I think Kamara's got a big chip in his shoulder and he was playing hurt, but I would take Kamara over Cook.
All right, so let's move on. Leonard Fournette is clearly the next best running back in the AFC South. I have him as an RB16. I would draft him probably in the 3rd round. I will tell you that for somebody that's touched the ball 341 times and only getting 3 touchdowns, that's not sustainable. And I mean that in a good way, because I really think he's going to touch the ball as many times, but I think his touchdown numbers can only go up at this point. If those touchdown numbers normalize, you've got somebody who is definitely a high-end RB1 at that point.
Yeah, he's kind of the Robert Woods of running backs.
Right. I mean, honestly, I can touch my balls that much in one night, let alone a whole season. But,
You got to try. Give it a try.
So we have a guess. We have a guess here, and I'm gonna go Trump on this. Eric Crouch. Crouch.
Eric Crouch is one of the answers.
Who
was guessing on that one?
That was Adam.
Okay. All right. So
we have two of the three.
We have two of the three. We have Eric Crouch.
So he was drafted. But he never played a down.
Correct.
In there. Okay.
Yep. All right. So we got one more. We got two taken, one more to go. Okay. So we were talking about Leonard Fournette, guys. Where do you stand on Fournette? Are you grabbing him in the third round as your second running back?
Yes.
Yeah. So you like Fournette. So he scares me.
I don't.
His injuries scare me.
You know, in the third round as your second running back, I think is a good value for him. I'm not taking him in the second round as my second running back, but if I have a running back, wide receiver, running back, and Fournette in the third round as my third running back, and I want to wait on receivers, I think it's a really good value. If you want to,
let me throw some names out, and you tell me if you're going to take Fournette before or after. Okay, Miles Sanders.
After.
Okay. Josh Jacobs.
After.
Way after.
Aaron Jones.
After.
Todd Gurley.
Stumped us.
After.
Okay. Chris Carson.
After.
James Conner.
Before. I go before on that. James Conner. After.
After.
Wow. You guys are undervaluing Fournette. It's good. I'm glad you're both in my league. I do appreciate that.
Yeah, you like him. You know something? After Derrick Henry, this is the most untrustworthy division for running backs. You have a David Johnson that hasn't been David Johnson since 2017. You've got Fournette, who's oft injured, doesn't score. I do like him, but I find him hard to trust. You got Marlon Mack, who actually at times before he got hurt looked very good last year, but now they have Jonathan Taylor, so that's a really questionable backfield. This is a very untrustworthy division for running backs after Derrick Henry. It's all people that I'm not going to spend a lot of draft capital on.
There's a lot of potential split backfields.
Right.
You have Johnson and Johnson. You have, so you were saying Mack and Taylor.
Fournette's carries. Worst case scenario, I mean, obviously if he stays healthy, but you've got Chris Thompson, right? He might come in on third down and get a catch. Excuse me. But nobody else is carrying the ball.
But they're going to be so bad. I think they have one of the worst offensive lines in football. That team is not in a good situation. I think it's going to be a lot of garbage time stuff. They have to play some pretty formidable defenses as well in Houston. Indianapolis's defense is much improved. And Tennessee's got a phenomenal defense. And if you're game planning against the Jags, you're going to game plan to stop Fournette. Minshew is definitely a serviceable quarterback, but you're going to game plan to stop Fournette. I
have a question. I have a question for you here. Without a preseason, for these guys really to be having essentially what preseason is scrimmages, right?
Yeah.
For getting players, up and ready and having there's less pads. Do you think earlier in the season you're going to see offensive players excel more because you think it's going to go the other way?
Defenses.
You think defenses
offenses need to have chemistry.
So do defenses
to communicate.
But offenses work so much more on timing.
Yeah, a lot of it is the timing. And that's just history of it takes
it takes time
to come on board.
But you may see teams running more early because that passing chemistry isn't there. So you may have running backs that are doing more screens, So I don't know how you accommodate for that in fantasy or at all, or if you try to or not to. But it's just an interesting thought to think about as the season starts this year.
I think it comes into play more for teams like Miami that have a completely new offensive line.
Right.
I think it comes into play for teams that have rookies on their offensive line or rookies in the backfield. And I think that's where the problems will arise by not having the preseason, not having the camp, not having the mini camp.
Right.
That's where, to me, the issues will come. And I know, Keith, you brought up David Johnson. Would you take David Johnson as your second running back? Let's say you grabbed Derrick Henry in the first round, and then second round you grabbed a good receiver. Coming back in the third round, are you grabbing David Johnson? Or even in the fourth round?
It depends on who else is there. It is so depending. I mean, let's put it this way. If he is bona fide, the next best running back off the board, and that is, very subjective. He's such a talent. I just wonder how much of his injuries have really slowed him down.
His injuries were his hand the 1 year.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't his legs, it wasn't his body, it was his hand that it had gotten broken. He couldn't hold the ball. But
yeah, and I know Arizona did not have a very good or great run blocking scheme, although Kenyon Drake came in there and just absolutely lit it up where David Johnson wasn't. I mean, he was putting up pedestrian numbers. It wasn't a total flop, but for what he was projected and where he was drafted, it was very pedestrian numbers where Kenyon Drake was coming in and lighted up. So, by the way, it was Chase Edmonds.
My concern really with David Johnson is not the injuries. I mean, that's always a concern, and that's why he's falling, by the way, to the fourth, fifth round because of that. But, the Texans, they gave their running backs the ball 400 times last year. Out of that, 255 of them went to Carlos Hyde. So the opportunity most likely will be there, but the Duke Johnson issue concerns me a little bit.
Yeah.
Because Duke Johnson is a formidable third down back. He can catch out of the backfield. He can even run out of the backfield on first and second down if they had to. Bill O'Brien, I would not trust him. I'm glad I'm not a Texans fan. I'd be right now. But we don't know. And again, that's the loss of preseason. And now, without DeAndre Hopkins, right, safeties can inch up a little more. I think I would stay away from David Johnson, but I still think he has the potential of being a low-end running back too. If you ended up getting a Christian McCaffrey and Ezekiel Elliott in the first round, and you need a second running back, you grab your wide receivers in the next 3 rounds after that, David Johnson might be a good guy to have as a low-end RB2.
Mm-hmm.
So then the question really comes between that I really want to talk about right now is Marlon Mack and Jonathan Taylor. There's no denying Taylor's talent, right? The question will be, without preseason and camp and everything else, are the Colts going to trust Jonathan Taylor to be their running back, or are they going to start the season with Marlon Mack, bring on Jonathan Taylor, and then have a running back by committee?
And that's actually what I've been reading, and sounds like it's probably going to be the most formidable option.
Right.
Yeah. Because Marlon Mack is a pretty good running back.
Mack had over 1,000 yards last year. 8 touchdowns. It's not like he did bad. It's just, again, he was in there, and it felt like every game, it was like one of these guys that he would be doing well, and then he would disappear for part of the game. Whether it was the coach's decision or he just, then all of a sudden, it's like all of a sudden in the first half, he has, 15 fantasy points, and then he ends up with 16 for the game, kind of player or whatever the case may have been. But it was frustrating. You also wonder, with having Phillip Rivers there, you need to have a running back who can pick up the blocking schemes, right? You don't exactly have a guy who can move around a whole lot. So that has to come into some of the consideration too. So you have to get Taylor up to speed with the speed of the NFL. So like you say, it's probably going to be they'll spell Mack at the beginning and then bring in Taylor as he progresses, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm. And they still love Nyheim Hines. He's a fantastic third down back. He's great out of the backfield, excellent hands, shifty little route runner, and does a lot in the open field. So that's another mouth to feed there. They're not going to forget about him.
What do you think, Seth?
Well, I think it comes down to numbers, right? So we know the Colts have probably the best offensive line in football, or one of the best offensive lines in football. We know that last year they ran the ball 350 times. Okay. So that's a lot. So if you give Jonathan Taylor 250, and here's how I'll break it down: 350, 100 last year went to Jordan Wilkins and Jonathan Williams. Okay. You give those 100 to Marlon Mack. That still leaves Jonathan Taylor 250 carries behind that offensive line. I love Taylor. Where I'm going to draft him is the question. You know, right now, ADP, they have him going on in around the 4th round. I don't know if I'm willing to grab Taylor. I would grab him as a flex. There's no doubt in my mind.
But that was with Jacoby Brissett, not Phillip Rivers.
Right, and Brissett can get around the pressure.
You're not going to waste one of the best running offensive lines in the league just to let Rivers throw the ball. So, yeah, and I get that, and I agree. But that's what I'm saying with Taylor. I would have no problem with him as my running back, but I really have to have a good supporting cast if I'm going to do that. Just
right.
You know,
it's an RB3. I mean, to me, he's clearly an RB3.
Yeah, but both of those guys are you know, a flex guy for a week or a stream guy. Well, no, you're gonna want to actually draft both those guys on your rosters late, you know, in later rounds.
Are they handcuffs
for each other?
Yeah,
I mean, you're not going to take Mack and Taylor and take 2 spots on your roster unless you have a really deep roster.
Well,
I wouldn't imagine.
Mack falls to the 12th round.
That's what I'm saying. You get him in a good fit.
I don't see him falling that far.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I understand that. I mean, if you take Taylor as as your rookie that's going to come in and start, and then you want to handcuff him with Mack, it's not a bad idea. I understand that, depending on what else you have on your roster.
Right. Okay. So wide receivers, guys, with this division, we've got AJ Brown, T.Y. Hilton, DJ Chark, Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks. I would assume. I mean, are you all looking at AJ Brown as being the one that'll have the best fantasy season in the AFC South, or who are you looking at?
You know how many catches? All right. So I actually kind of knew this stat. Yeah. But then I was reading about it today or yesterday when we were doing the research for this show. He had over 1,000 yards last year. You know how many catches he had?
No.
52 catches. He had over 20 yards a catch average last year. Right. That's amazing.
Yeah.
For
can sustain itself though.
Right. But again, remember the first major part of that season had a very confused, not comfortable looking Marcus Mariota throwing the ball. When Tannehill came in, they were lighting it up together.
Well, Tannehill started 13 games last year. He came in pretty early. It's not like he came in halfway through the season.
Okay.
No, it was just a few weeks in. Right. But yes, you're right. But still, over 20 yards a catch for any receiver is pretty amazing. And he had 8 touchdowns. So, you hope to look. You actually probably, as a fantasy person, would rather have more catches and bring that at, you want to get him into that 75 to 80 range, and maybe he gets up to 1,200 yards. But if he can still sustain that 8 to 10 touchdowns, you're looking at a pretty decent wide receiver there.
Absolutely. So here the question is, who's the class of this division? I think we can narrow it down to the 3. Of course, it's AJ Brown, DJ Chark, and T.Y. Hilton. I don't think anyone else would really fit into that. I mean, someone's going to have to come up to fill DeAndre Hopkins' role in Houston between Brandon Cooks, Fuller, and who's the third? I'm spacing out right now. Randall Cobb, I believe, right? Those are going to be the big three there.
Kenny Stills.
Say again?
Kenny Stills,
excuse me. But I don't think any of those. I mean, it could be Cooks. Is it the Cooks that we saw towards the middle and the end of his Rams season last year? But I think it's pretty obvious. We're looking at Hilton, Chark, and AJ Brown, the 3. And it's one of those weird things. But again, I'm so low on Jacksonville and this team. And I think they're going to get really behind in games. You're going to see an enormous amount of garbage time throwing between Minshew and Chark. And Chark, I just think
that's good for fantasy.
It's great for fantasy. Terrible for the town of Jacksonville.
You like Chark over A.J. Brown?
I honestly think I do. I think Brown is I love his system. I think Tennessee is going to strive, but Henry's going to get the rock. They've got a great defense. I think they're going to be up in a lot of games, and they're just not going to have to throw as much unless they stack the box, which they're going to try to. I think Chark might get more numbers, more receptions, and more yards just for the sheer game scripting that's going to happen.
Right.
Well, going back to A.J. Brown, I like A.J. Brown. I have him as a wide receiver 2 or 3 or borderline wide receiver 2 or 3, only because I anticipate a regression on his efficiency. I don't see them being able to sustain those numbers. It's a run-first offense where on the other side of the ball with what you were saying, Keith, which is with Chark, even if they run a lot, they are going to be throwing. They're going to be going from behind. The interesting thing with DJ Chark is that he had 6 games with 15 plus points, but he also had 8 games with less than 9 points.
Right.
So he's inconsistent, which is a problem. They also added Shenault in the second round, right? So Chark's not on an island. He's not by himself. He has wide receiver 2 upside, in my opinion, but I think he's also looking at I'm looking at a wide receiver end of 2, beginning of wide receiver 3 for both Chark and A.J. Brown.
And then where do you put Hilton with the Phillip Rivers here? I say Hilton does have a lot of upside because one thing we know about Phillip Rivers, he loves to key in on his favorite receiver. He loved to pepper Keenan Allen with targets. So that's obviously going to be T.Y. Hilton. I don't think it's going to be Campbell, and I don't think it's going to be Pittman. Although Pittman was a great draft choice, if you ask me. But I think he's going to go with his bona fide wide receiver 1. So Hilton's going to be very interesting there as well. Is that a high end wide receiver 2 again? I mean, when he's healthy, he is stud.
I think he has potential of wide receiver 2 numbers, but my concern with T.Y. Hilton is that he made his name on touchdowns, right?
Yeah,
and I think
touchdowns.
I think with Jonathan Taylor, we already saw Marlon Mack, and him taking touchdowns away. Now with Jonathan Taylor, is probably going to get even a lot more, and Michael Pittman. I'm concerned that T.Y. Hilton might get some catches, might get some big plays. He's not going to get those touchdowns. So I actually have T.Y. Hilton. I would draft him in the 5th, 6th round. In the same area as an A.J. Brown or DJ Chark, in that they are a low wide receiver 2 or 3 with a wide receiver 2 potential.
Right. And Hilton also has he has spent basically all last season as a last minute decision, game time decision.
Right.
Which was frustrating. I had him, and that was frustrating every week watching him, and is he going to play? Is he not going to play? And then he would play a couple downs, and then he's out for the rest of the game, or he would have 1 catch for 30 yards and a touchdown, and he's done because he got hurt on that touchdown. So it was a little frustrating. Mm-hmm. A guy that I have interest in is Will Fuller. Now I had picked him up. I streamed him off pickups last year, and I'm watching the game, and he has these long touches. I tell you, if this guy could actually hold on to the ball, he would have been like a top 10 receiver last year or something.
If he could stay on the field.
That's number one. And then when he's on the field, if he could actually hold on to it, he gets hurt. And I saw 5 catches in one game that should have been touchdowns, and they just went right through his hands. Mm. And I had him, and it was incredibly frustrating.
Will Fuller and Brandon Cook are the same player. They play the same position. They're going to scavenge from each other, and that's going to be a problem. One will be down with a concussion. One will be down with a knee problem. But the point is, I'm personally staying away from both of those guys only because we don't know what's going to happen in that offense. They haven't had the time to work with Deshaun Watson that you would normally put in. I would take them both as wide receiver 4s and hope that they would end up being wide receiver 3s. Look, Will Fuller, he was pretty good in about a quarter of his games, but then in a third of his games, he posted wide receiver 3 numbers. So, you're going to have that inconsistency. The same thing with Brandon Cook. We know that obviously Deshaun Watson is an upgrade over Jared Goff. We know that. But then you have the concussion issue. I think one more concussion, he might be done. We don't know.
Yeah, this is one of those instances, and we've had it in a couple times when we've talked about divisions and teams, is where you have a really high-rated quarterback, and you're not drafting any of the receivers.
Right.
It's amazing. I think we had it opposite. I forget who it was, but there was a lot of really good receivers, but the quarterback was really low. Right. So it doesn't seem to make sense, but that's just how it plays out.
All right. So let's move on to tight end, even though this will take us 20 seconds. I'm not drafting a single one of these tight ends. I'm aware of Jonnu Smith. I know that he has the potential of being a tight end too, but personally, I'm staying away from Smith, Eifert, Doyle, Fells. I'm staying away. I'm going to stream them possibly if they're available as free agent pickups, but I'm staying away from them. What do you think?
I think Jonnu Smith is a talent, but one of the things that we learned watching Tannehill, for whatever reason, he just cannot find the tight end. Yeah. Although one thing you got to remember about Phillip Rivers is he loves the tight end, loves him, and you got Eric Ebron gone, so you got Doyle there. Doyle could break the top 10 in tight ends just because of the usage and the game scripting, and that is one of Rivers' his favorite outlets is safety valve. Other than that, I agree. I don't see anyone else in this division that's worth a look at the tight end position.
I had the same thought on Doyle, just because Rivers loves tight ends.
But he's not good, and he's not Hunter Henry. He's Jack Doyle. No, I'm just saying. I mean, I'm not saying he's not good. I'm saying he's not Hunter Henry and he's not Antonio Gates.
100%. But he seems to like the tight ends in the red zone. So his touchdowns could. What's that?
Keith likes the tight ends in the red zone as well.
Oh, I love Chubb. Don't get it wrong. Don't get it mixed up.
Love Chubb in the tight end? What?
Okay, we spent too much time on tight end. All right. Let's go ahead and answer the question, the impossible trivia question. We had Adam came in. He told us Charlie Ward, even though Brad had already given that one away. So sorry, Adam. You don't get the T-shirt this week. Let me go ahead and I'll throw the answers up on the screen here. The answer is Jason White from Oklahoma.
Jason White.
Eric Cross from Nebraska and Charlie Ward from Florida State. I personally, like I said, when I saw this question, I thought it would have been more, because I know it doesn't always translate Heisman Trophy winner to a productive NFL career. So I thought maybe it would have been more than 3, but that's the answer. Nobody gets the fake prize on that one, and so far nobody called in. So you're holding on to your dinner tonight. No DoorDash gift card.
Yeah, you can use it.
You can. You know what? We'll do this. If you want to participate in the lightning round, which is about to come up now, call us at 772-800-BUZZ or 772-800-2899. Join us in the lightning round. You get the DoorDash gift card. I think that's fair.
I say do it.
All right, let's do it. Hopefully someone will give us a call. Are we ready for the lightning round, guys?
Let's do this. I think we got a fun one tonight.
We got a fun one. Uh-oh.
Well, the other ones have been fun too. This is another fun one.
No, I like Brad's because the whole jet thing really threw me for a loop. And
that really did.
I have her now because I didn't want to pick a jet player.
Yeah, but I sent you some cream, so you're good. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I got my cream.
All right, so for this week's or for tonight's lightning round, we're going to do something a little fun. It's going to be high, low, or on the money. And what I mean by that is I'm going to give you a player, and I'm going to give you what the consensus draft position is for that player, whether it was a QB 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. What you're going to tell me, is he overvalued, undervalued, or you think it's right on the money, which probably won't happen.
Are you talking about, so for position, so if you say, for example, Kenyon Drake, he might be the 9th best running back, but he might not be drafted until, the 6th.
Yeah, this is not ADP. This is just their ranking within their NFL position,
or
in their by position, not by
position. Okay. So we'll start with the first one. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. Josh Allen as QB 7 Undervalued, overvalued, or on the money?
Overvalued.
He is so overvalued. It boggles my mind when we talk about
QB7.
It's silly. It's silly. I can name off on two hands quarterbacks that I think before Josh Allen.
What
I happen to.
What happens if Allen and Mahomes do their throw off before the NFL season and he can throw further? Does his value move up?
Oh, he has a really good job. He does a good job of throwing out of bounds, Josh.
Yes.
I
mean, he can throw for 100 yards.
Where anybody is, he just throws the ball up. So, yeah.
All right.
Okay,
All right. Number 2, Le'Veon Bell at RB20. Is he undervalued or is he overvalued?
Le'Veon Bell, again, it's a Jet, but I'm going to take that out. I'm going to say probably right on, around 20. Yeah, I think it's about right on at that
Okay.
point.
That's
a guy we were just talking about, AJ Brown at wide receiver 13. Undervalued or overvalued?
At 13?
13.
Wide receiver
probably,
13.
I think he's overvalued at 13 because
I think over, as well.
Okay. Austin Eckler at running back 13. Yeah. Is that overvalued or undervalued?
I say that's probably right on.
What do you have? What was the number?
Running back 13. Austin Eckler. 13.
Yeah, I think that's about right. That's about where I'd have him.
Okay.
Wait, we're talking PPR?
These are, well, let's say PPR.
Okay, for PPR, I think he would be undervalued.
Undervalued there.
Okay.
For PPR, especially a full point PPR, I would put him above somebody like a Nick Chubb or a Josh Jacobs or an Aaron Jones, where if it wasn't PPR, he would be below them.
Below that, exactly.
So probably half PPR is probably right on.
So let's go rest of the round. It's all half point PPR, which is a lot of the leagues are that. Okay. Let's assume half point PPR. James Conner as RB22.
James Conner is RB22.
Say undervalued by a few.
Yeah, I would say about that. I would say it's close to being right on, or if he is undervalued, I agree with Brad. It would only be by a few. Okay. Terry McLaurin at wide receiver 28. So wide receiver 28 means
who's your somebody's third receiver on their team.
Right.
In a 10-team league, a 12-team league, that's their second/third receiver.
I think that's undervalued.
I think it's way undervalued. That's why I love this one. Look,
interesting.
Haskins is not a good quarterback, but he's got to go for at least, 3,200, 3,500 yards. Who else do they have there? He has to throw to someone.
They have Sprinkle.
Right. God, I love that name. Okay. Emmanuel Sanders at wide receiver 40.
God,
man, probably that
is gonna. I mean, we know what Drew Brees does, right?
I think honestly, that's probably about right.
Yeah, I would say that's about right.
Yeah.
Okay. And our last one, and I find this unbelievable that this was a consensus. Kirk Cousins at QB 22.
Kirk Cousins. Even last year, I was shocked because when he went to Minnesota, I was shocked that he was actually pretty low on the list. And at 22, you said?
QB 22.
I think that's probably right on. I mean, if it's off, it's by a few. But you got to think about who you're drafting above that. And without Diggs, I think, and I know they have Jefferson. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure whether or not. That's going to work.
Cousins is that guy that it seems like he should be higher,
right?
Yeah, but his numbers don't necessarily, have that higher rating. He's a streamer. I think it's probably under if you're doing a 2-quarterback league, if you're starting a 2-quarterback league, or. I think he's probably undervalued by 3 or 4 spots. maybe even 5 in that, I'm not taking him as my number 1 quarterback, but I'm going to take him as a great backup quarterback that you can plug in when you need to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's fair.
And I think that's about accurate. I don't think he's top 15, but I also don't think he's number 22. So I thought that was an interesting one. So there's our lightning round.
Good job, Keith. We appreciate that.
You.
Now, I'll tell you this. We have now completed going through each division, talking about each player in each division and where they stand in that division. So moving forward now, we're going to start talking about things like positions. We're going to talk about running backs as a whole. And not just who's the best, who's the worst, but where to pick somebody. Also, strategy. Are you grabbing running backs in your first 2 rounds? We'll go through some mock drafts together after while we'll interject some mock drafts along with these positions. We'll talk about sleepers. We're going to talk about busts. We're going to say draft and do not draft, a game that we had last year that was a lot of fun. And we're going to hear from all of you. Also, Monday, we may have a special guest. I don't want to announce it yet, but we may have a special guest. His name is Mystic Zach, but I'm not going to say for sure. But hopefully, if he shows up, you guys are in for a treat. Let's just say I'll find out this weekend. Our next show, Monday night at 8. Instead of Monday Night Football, we have Monday Night Fantasy Football.
That's right.
We hope you guys show up. Any final words?
No, looking forward to it. I will be on the road, but I'll be on the call, be on the podcast. So looking forward to that, to have something to do while I'm out on the road, because I can't go out or do anything else.
Any are you able to tell us where you will be, just for fun?
Monday night, I should be in either Charleston or Atlanta.
All right.
But I don't know yet. We'll see.
All right. Sounds good. All right, guys. Great show tonight. Good hearing from you guys. Please join us Monday night, 8 p.m. Let's do this. We will see you then. All right.
Take care.
See you next week.